Hello guys, welcome back. So in this video we are gonna talk about views. So the views is an important component into the Django request workflow or in the Django request lifecycle. Okay, so we are gonna learn a little bit more about views and how to use views to change or to compose the your application behavior. Okay, so if you have a look quick look here into this diagram, we can see that after the URL get resolved, or soon as Django knows what the user wants to do, it will trigger one view. This view will execute the functionality itself. Of course, it might, and for sure, if we are talking about getting information or saving data information to the database, the views will work with models and managers. But in a big picture, the view will be the first thing to be triggered after the URL resolution. So if we go to our application, as soon as let's assume that the user typed clients into the URL and then trigger the browser, press enter. The first thing that Django will do, of course after the middlewares, it will try to discover what the user wants to do. So Django will have a look in this list and try to find one corresponding URL. As soon as it's get resolved, Django will trigger one view. View is basically a Python function. Okay, we can use classes as well as functions, but in this course, I will be using function-based view. But if you want, you can have a look on Django documentation and get a little bit more details about using classes instead of functions. But for this course, functions will be more than enough. So the first thing, as soon as the URLs trigger the view, one function will be triggered. Sorry, just just close that real quick. So as soon as this function is triggered, Django will pass by default always the request as a first parameter. Okay, so this is required every time that you create a function that will be connected straight away to one URL. You always need to receive this request. So here inside the function you can do whatever you want. Okay, so let's create one URL example just to keep the client's URL the way that we have now, because I'm going to provide this code for you from the GitHub. So you will be able to study, to recover, or practicing. So I'll keep that. I'll create a new URL. I'll call that test. Okay. As soon as you declare the new URL, you should put one function. So I'll call this function test function. Okay, but we don't have this test function, so we need to import that test function, and then we need to create this function inside the views. Okay, so def and then get the request. Okay, for now I'll just put pass. That means that Django will do basically nothing and it will ignore this function for now. I will start the server. So my project is called my project. The folder is in the folder my project. Let's check where I am. So okay, I'll go one step back. Clients. So source myenv bean activate, and then I'll go back to clients application and Python manage by run server. Okay, so we run the server. So once we try to access that URL, we're gonna get a error. So if I type test here, look to this error. The view client's test function didn't return an HTTP response object. It returned a none instead. What it means is it's the same. Uh, it's the same. Once you like we every time that you create a function, it always must have to receive a request, and as well you always need to return one HTTP response object. Okay, no matter what, your function needs always to provide one response with an object that's based on HTTP response that will have like the headers, the response body, the response status, and so on and so forth. So always you need to return that. So here I will return one normal HTTP response with a short string called test. Then I'll refresh the the project, and here we go. So now we have the results working fine. Okay, as well we can execute new things. For example, you can declare one variable, you can do calculation, okay, and you can return this value. So for example, we can put it like this here, and concatenate uh, with a value, for example. So you can use let me check that. Oh, I think I should put like this: local variable b reference before sign. Okay, yeah, it's fine. I need you to do like this, and then when I refresh here, I get the results. So you can manipulate information. You can either create another auxiliary function, for example, do calculation, and then you receive the values. For example, value 1 and value 2, and then you return, for example, value 1 multiplied by value 2. So we don't need to do this anymore this way. Instead, we can just get the total and do calculation and pass the value 10 and 2. And here, instead of dot, we can put, instead of b, sorry, we can use dot. So this we created a new function that will do the calculation. We get the both values, and then we return the calculation of both. And then here we call the function. We store the result in one function and put that as a response. Okay, so we get basically the same result. So you can use auxiliary functions. In this case, you don't need to pass or either receive the requests, because you basically doesn't need to. Just the functions that will be straight connected to one URL that needs to be that needs to get the request as the first parameter. And as well, of course, it doesn't need to return the HTTP response, just the main function that needs to do this. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. And then, so as we could see, it's very easy to work with Django using function-based views. So as you basically declare the URL, declare the function, import that, make sure that we receive the request and we return one response, and that's it. That's the most important things about views in Django. Okay. Next time, in next class, we are going to learn how to manipulate templates. So we're going to work with a real HTML template. You are going to create a file, and then our function will get this file, will transform that into a HTTP response, and will give it back to the browser. So we can have and of course this in this example was just for testing, purpose, because in the real world you will never do HTTP response like that. is in very specific cases that we'll do in this way, very simple ones. But you need to work with a template. But for example, let's assume that you want to put that in bold and you do /b here like this, and you update. You can return one template here. Django will render that for you. If you, for example, if you create a link like a href http www.programfacio.com.br, and then we close the link, for example. If we click here, it will redirect correctly. Okay. So you can put 8ml here and do that as a response, but it's not a good practice. The good practice says that you need to have your templates 8ml separating an extra file, your CSS separating a second one, your JavaScript code in a third one. As soon as the same that you need to have your Python code separated in an extra Python file. Okay, so next class, we're going to learn how to connect your templates and your functions and have one better and more real world example. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have implemented these functions in your code and everything is working fine. But if not, don't worry, put your comment down below that I'm gonna help you. Okay, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.